Okay, so we are looking at NASM's Phase 5 today, getting into the power stuff particularly. Oops, hold on. I forgot to get my notes open. Horrible way to start. There we go. So, we've been looking at this idea of like global period, overall periodization for like, moving through all of these different phases of training and getting really kind of familiar with these. Today, we are diving in. We've worked our way through strength, and now we are in the full-blown level 3 power, right? So with level 3, this is obviously the most advanced level that NASM has. This is where, everything's coming together. You have built on, you know, when you moved from the stabilization level, which is where you built yourself a foundation, you built upon that foundation in strength endurance, right? Two things that we get from the stabilization level. We get endurance, we get increased stability, the ability to move our joints correctly. We moved into strength endurance. We started lifting a little bit heavier, but still focusing on like that joint stability and endurance. Then we started getting out of, the more endurance stuff and starting lifting a little bit heavier when we moved into phase 3, hypertrophy or muscular development training. That's where we focused more on like, okay, now I can really push myself enough to trigger growth in particular. So we're really emphasizing that. Max strength, yesterday we talked about like that's going to build, getting even heavier. The intensity goes up, the reps go down, the sets go up because now it's like you don't want to do, you know, set of one rep. That's not going to be enough training stimulus, right? But we made sure that it was like really, really starting to get like maximally raw heavy. Well, we just moved through 3 phases of force production, right? Phase 2, 3, and 4, all in the strength level. We really emphasized all of this like force production ability. So we might be like really strong, but we also might be really slow moving, which means if we want to really improve like our overall power output, we need to start focusing on like velocity movement. And one of the things I said when we first opened up the Zoom today is like there are sort of two takes on the world of power. There's anaerobic power and there's aerobic power, right? So anaerobic power doesn't require oxygen. It's not a cardio thing. It is lifting absolutely as heavy as possible. So we are talking really low repetition, but hopefully very explosive. We're talking something like a snatch or a clean and jerk, right? Something like that. Really raw, explosive, get it up, get all the energy out, like a firework, boom. But then there's also like anaerobic power. Let me say like instead of like a firework, like a like a firework in a baseball game, like big explosion type, right? But then we also have a little bit of like aerobic power. And aerobic power is more like being very explosive over like a short burst of something, like somebody who can do like 40 box jumps in a row. Like they have like good, very explosive, maybe not a lot of force production, but they're able to be explosive over and over and over again. This is kind of what I tend to think of when I think of like most field sports, or what do you think of when you think of like a lot of like boot camp group exercise training style of training? So that's like doing a lot of plyometrics. The guy was taking marketing to amateurs, but if you look at like, do you guys remember Insanity? Anybody remember those workouts? Is that still around actually?
Yes, it is.
I remember that.
It,
I was
it,
talking about it yesterday.
were you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild. Is the
Um,
Beachbody still around? I thought they had like I thought Beachbody went through. No. Yeah, Body. Oh, that's right. They rebranded to BODI. Um, and there's definitely some like drama in that company, which no surprise there. But yeah, like here's the thing. Let's see if I can find the Insanity workout. Sometimes people have taken those things and just like put them into like a PDF. Hold on. I bet because I'll bet we can find the whole workout. But that's kind of what I mean when I say like aerobic power, where it's like this insanity stuff was just nothing, but that's like their come on, I want it like laid out, like Star
I
Trek.
was waiting for you to bring this up. I'm so surprised in all this time you didn't bring it up.
I well, we haven't been in phase three or level two.
We've gone through, yeah, we've gone through so many months of going over all of this, and this is the first time you've brought it up.
Yeah. I would say P90X also kind of, they didn't do as many plyometrics in P90X. I've seen P90X's workouts. I've actually never taken the time to like actually try to read this guy's thing. See, I'm seeing a lot of his schedule.
What
See
was
a
his
lot of like,
name? I forget his name.
oh, I don't know. I guess it's up here.
That's not Billy Blanks, right? That was the Tybo guy.
No, it's not Billy Blanks. My wife, she's on the other side of the wall right now. I guarantee her ears just pricked up. Uh, Billy Blanks,
He was Tybo, right?
he was Tybo. He broke my wife's toe. Uh,
What?
Not him, actually. She was like a teenager. Um, she was like a teenager. I can't find this guy's name. Um, and I don't think she was like a young teenager. She was like at like a friend's house, and they were like her mom like put in. She's like, "We're gonna do Taibo," and so like all these girls like put it in, and she like kicked, but she like hit this thing and broke her toe. She's like screaming.
Oh no.
Her dad's a pediatrician. Her dad's a doctor, right? So she gets taken to the hospital. Her mom like goes there as well, and her mom is like her, her toes all messed up, and her mom's sitting there, and like Lindsay's in so much pain, she's freaking out, right? And her mom's like, oh, and then she sees the doctor who's working on her like touch her toe, and her mom faints, like just like hits the
Oh
floor.
gosh.
So like they put her on a gurney like in this little room, and then like Lindsay's dad shows up, and like his wife and daughter are just both like in this room like over like a broken toe.
Oh no.
But yeah, that was Billy Blanks. And he's
Oh,
still
that's with Sean P.
Sean P. Yes, thank you. Good Lord. Sean P.
Yeah, there it is. I was like, what is
God.
this guy's name?
I can't find an example of his actual workout. I'm seeing a ton of his schedules, but or maybe it's this. Um, yeah, switch kicks, power jacks. So like switch kicks is just kick back and forth. That is actually very much like Billy Blank's. Power jacks would just be where you do a jumping jack, and then when you come down, you touch the floor. So it's like this. Power knees, I guess that's probably just going side to side. Power jumps, that looks like a sumo. I don't know why that's a sumo position, but like sumo jumps. So it's just like, look at this, guys. You can see globe jumps. What is that nonsense? Um, a lot of explosive just movements over and over again. That's what we mean when we say like aerobic power. You know what I mean? Like you're not building, I mean, you are building explosiveness doing something like this, but more what you're doing is building like an aerobic engine. So Lisa, this is exactly what you asked about the other day when I was showing like what power level exercises look like. And I was just laying just nothing but power exercises. It was like power, 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 power as like a circuit. That's what this is. And that's where if you don't do the max strength superset thing. But if we do the max strength superset thing, where we're going for post activation potentiation, we're going to take a workout kind of like what we just did. But what we would do is either later in the workout, although not the way NASM does it, NASM wants you to do it as a superset. We would do, instead of an incline dumbbell chest press, this would be like a plyometric push-up. Like boom, you explode, clap, land. Right? Really explosive. Or a medicine ball chest pass. Or you could do a bench press again, if you ask other people other than NASM, really light and just go wham. I'm not a big fan of that. That's a great way to bruise your chest. I don't like throwing barbells personally, although you can. We'll talk about that. But just based on like inertia and stuff, that really puts a lot of stress on your joints. Like I don't like you guys ever see people who like they'll box with like 1 pound weights? They'll do like this kind of thing, right? Where they're like boxing really heavy, well, not really heavy, but just like little 1, 2 pound weights in their hands, right? I don't like stuff like that because like what you're doing is you're applying like a lot of force production throughout like your muscle, and then you are adding inertia to that dumbbell as it's traveling through space. And so that inertia wants to keep going, but you are at the end of your range of movement, so it jerks your joints. Not a big fan of that. you want to load something and you want to be explosive for like a punching movement, I do like that. But again, dumbbells, number one, they're weighing this way. So already not a big fan. This is the same conversation as why I don't like weight vests for like rut sprinting. I like weight vests if you're going uphill, but I don't like them if you're just like running. Again, gravity goes this way, but then also you're adding inertia to that dumbbell. So it's likely to pull on your joints. Not a big fan of that. Resistance bands, however, tied, maybe I just hold the handle here, the band goes back behind me, and I punch with like a band that I have to like resist again. So it does add force production and then pulls me back. That I'm a big fan of. It's being loaded in the correct direction, and I can't apply inertia to a band. But again, that's aerobic power, right? I would probably do like a bunch of reps of this and then I, rest and switch sides, and then like they'd have you do lefties. It's good, but it's aerobic power. It's probably not actually going to make you maximally explosive. So there is kind of a difference between anaerobic and aerobic power. But either way, power training is all about building on already established stabilization, most importantly, already established strength, and then doing them at, it says here, realistic speeds. I'm like, how realistic do we need to be here? Like, it's like that makes it sound like we are all going to be chased by something. The body will encounter in everyday life and sports. I'm like, not everybody plays sports. So I'm like, who's getting chased by a bear here? But no, like it is, I would say like more applicable to sports and things like that. Functionally, if you have two athletes and they're both trying to like get past each other, juke, one athlete's trying to block the other one, like in football or something like that. Whichever athlete is able to more quickly move from side to side and then run, that's the athlete that's going to get there first. There's a guy I play with who is I'm about as fast as him, like, just on like the get-go. But he is so much better at just faking his body language first. Like he does this like big, like he'll do this like big arm movement. And like I have kind of a good and bad habit of like watching someone out of like my sideline instead of like watching them directly. And so, like, if I just see from behind me, like, big movement, I'll just turn and I'm instantly assuming he's going in the direction that he goes. And he's faking me out. And he fakes me out every time, like, so often. And I have to work so much harder to catch up to him. And I find him to be the hardest guy that I guard at my frisbee game. But yeah, that's the definition of power. Like he's very explosive one, and then immediately use that to be more explosive the other direction. He is speedy, and I'm as speedy as him running straight, but his agility is better than mine. So always like a really hard thing to guard. So let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at Nassim's take on this before we move too far into it. Um,
Introduce.
I got Dave's Hot Chickens. So, yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
So he was talking about the percentage of weight that you would be using, right? Because you're concerned with moving explosively. So now you're not using any weight that's going to, bring you close to failure. You're just using a percentage of that weight.
Yes, and you're trying to get your intensity out as explosively as possible. Yeah. So, you're trying to basically like imagine if you did like a really heavy barbell squat and then you racked it and you had to do like a bunch of box jumps. You're going to try to be very explosive in those box jumps, right? Is it possible for you to do like one more at the end of the set? Like let's say you do all 10. Is it possible for you to jump again and maybe get an 11th one? Sure, you're not going to like full exhaustion the way like you almost get to failure when you're lifting, but you are basically emptying out your tank to where you're almost switching into aerobic energy system. And then you back off because again, this is the anaerobic power that he's talking about, right? So you back off, you rest, you recover, you take all that time that you need, and then you get back into it. It's kind of like he was talking about, like, that's why there's long rest periods in here. You know, short rest periods if you want aerobic power, long rest periods if you want anaerobic power. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I guess well my concern or my question really is um your I guess the amount or the percentage that you're using in the first portion of the superset is he mentioned a percentage. I think he said it was 30%.
Yes. So that's actually not in the first, that's the second portion.
Okay.
In the first portion, it's 85 to 100%. So
So
it's
you,
treated
you
just like max strength.
so okay, so you can go to failure on the first portion?
No, I wouldn't. I still wouldn't take it like strictly to failure. Like even if you're lifting at 100% of your one rep max, you should be able to do that one rep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't take that straight to failure.
I
Because
think
if you
that's where
do,
that's where I'm having some confusion is like what are you I mean if you're going almost to 100%, it's like you're not really concerned with reps here or sets.
you're more so let's say you're working at 85%, right? So
Hmm.
85% of your one rep max should correspond to about 5 repetitions,
Okay.
right? So you would do 5 very heavy repetitions, and then you would rack that barbell and do, let's say it was squats, right? 5 very heavy repetitions, you would rack that barbell, and then you would do 8 to 10 explosive like squat jumps, right? If you find that on your next set, you're trying to do your 5, and like we just saw that obviously like that 5 was possible, right?
Mhm.
That 85% for 5 was what we wanted to be, but you find like, you take 2 minutes of rest and you're just not recovered, and you try to do another 5 at the same weight, which should be possible, and you get to like 3 and you're like tapping out. I wouldn't want to. What I would probably do is I would rack it. I'd probably have you do that superset, do the squat jumps again, even if we stopped at 3. And then I'd probably give you a longer rest period, just to ensure, like maybe up to 5 minutes between the next set, just to ensure that you're fully recovered. Because I don't want you to push to failure on your strength movement, tapping you out to where you can't do your velocity movement.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to understand is like if you're going close to failure, it's like aren't you going to be too tapped out to even move explosively because you have to jump right into the next
Yeah.
exercise, right? So
Yep.
like okay, so for example, like if you're the tempo that you're moving through in the first exercise is explosive or as explosive as possible
As explosive as possible. Yeah.
without compromising form.
Right.
Okay, okay. Because I'm thinking like, I was looking at the first video and they're like doing squats and they're kind of already losing a little bit of form because they're moving so
Oh my
fast.
God. Yeah, that was one thing I was noticing too. I didn't pay attention to that yesterday. I was like, I've been
Yeah.
in videos beforehand and I did not notice how much knee tape was happening on every one of those guys. I was like,
Yeah, I saw a little bit of imbalance too, like on one side. And that's kind of what I'm trying to
yeah.
understand is like, okay, if you're getting close to failure, but you have to move explosively, you're going to compromise form at some point
So
in that first exercise.
So that's where, I mean, like, if that is a consistent problem, like, and it's just like you just notice it's happening all the time, what
Mhm.
that probably tells us, your client is not ready for this phase. Like,
Okay.
remember, phase 5 is like peaking too. So that's where it's like, ugh. So if they want to, but if they're like, well, I want to do velocity, like they want to work on that stuff, that's where you would maybe, instead of doing it the way NASM does it with like the superset thing, you would maybe build a hybrid workout, kind of similar to this hypertrophy example here, where it was like, all of this like max strength stuff. And then this was very much like hypertrophy stuff over here on these days, like max strength over here, hypertrophy over here. Maybe this would be max strength over here, explosive over here. You know what I mean? Or if we look at the example we just built a minute ago, right? Instead of the 6 to 8, and instead of picking these like split squats and seated rows and stuff, maybe you pick plyometric push-ups. So then without doing the superset thing, you're just getting them in on the same workouts where you're addressing max strength separately and power separately. You're still giving your clients some of the goals that they wanted. May not be quite optimal when it comes to training, but you're not sacrificing like their form and stuff until you build them a little bit of a better like cardiovascular engine, and then they're going to find that they have the endurance to kind of get through those things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I would either regress a level, like I said, this is the peak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I would change the workout slightly and do like what I would consider to be kind of a half regression, you know, dropping back just a not dropping back a phase, but like separating instead of doing the superset thing, and then eventually do the superset thing, like, you know, is sort of textbook.
So you want to go back to level 2,
Probably
right?
probably level 4, my
Yeah.
max strength, if I'm trying to do that.
Okay. And
Uh,
then you're working what on form again, or like form with heavier weight?
yeah, absolutely.
So
Okay.
it
And
kind
these
of
things,
it would be kind of just like a pre-setup before getting to again to the explosive.
yeah. So like again, they need to have a good foundation of strength before they can do like strength plus power. And then, like I said, I would probably still incorporate those power exercises into a routine, but like not superset it together. You know what I mean? Like I would just have them in their routine, but probably laid out as like a second exercise. So it might look something kind of like this. The top of their workout is, let's say, like a barbell squat, you know, 5 sets of 5. We'll say 2 minutes of rest, right? And then later in their workout, maybe something like squat jumps, you know, 5 sets of, you know, 1 minute of rest. Or actually, probably like 2 minutes of rest still, you know, and then like those are just separated until eventually it becomes this.
Mm, okay.
You know what I mean? Eventually they're superset. Does that make sense? Oh, and then one other thing of regression, just talk about what you're talking about. I will say I would not start someone with like a barbell squat into a box jump right away if they've never done power before. I will usually have them do squat jumps in, barbell squats into like regular squat jumps, which is like you jump and your legs hang down, right? Then eventually barbell squats into tuck jumps. So they jump and then they drive their knee into their chest while they're up. So if we look here, right? Um, uh, so we look at NASM's like squat jump here. So it might look like this. Skip. See how our legs are just hanging? Then eventually it can be a tuck jump. And tuck jump is where they're going to jump and then they're going to drive their knees into their chest. Right? So knee into chest. And then eventually it becomes, you know, a box jump. Because that way I don't have to worry about, like, I'm training them up to the place where eventually, you know, like eventually they'll be able to like jump onto the box. I'm not risking them not clearing that box and like face planting. You know what I mean? So that is another progression that I think is important. Is that clear too, guys? That made sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's build us a workout, shall we? Let's take a look at this. So we got phase 5, power. Now, with this, we do have to change everything in the OPT, right? So when we're looking at phase 5, we're going to use adaptations from stabilization and strength, but we're going to apply those things much faster, right? We still need to have good stability to move our joints correctly, and we need good strength to be able to like produce the force necessary to get through these ranges of movement. But it is a hybrid form of training, right? We're working on force and velocity instead of just force production. Strength was all about force production. And obviously, like force influences velocity, velocity influences force, you know. But we want to train them both separately if we want to get the best out of both of them. That way they each get dedicated time rather than kind of like, you know, this is where like my argument of like, look, you're gonna use your arms, you know, like your arms are, they're gonna get worked when you're doing chest stuff or back stuff, right? But yeah, if I'm a professional bodybuilder, I need some, yeah, I'm gonna need arm specific exercises, you know, that's gonna give me the best results. Like, so while doing all this strength stuff has been influencing velocity in the background, we haven't emphasized velocity yet. So now it's getting some dedicated time. So force times velocity equals power is our sort of formula there. And when we're doing this, it becomes, you know, it was already really important to make sure that we didn't do static straining in the static stretching in the strength level, because that was all about making sure that, like, you know, we didn't inhibit our muscles before we're trying to do this massive force production. Well, now dynamic stretching, which is like oftentimes considered to be like body weight exercise, like a body weight squat is kind of a dynamic stretch. You know, arm circles is kind of a dynamic stretch, you know. Um, Really even like a lunge with a twist, you know, like even mountain climbers, which I consider to be kind of an ab exercise, kind of a dynamic stretch, you know, like you're driving your knee up, that's stretching out your glutes, right? And you're kicking your leg back, that's stretching out your hip flexors. So dynamic stretches are basically, you know, lightweight movements that are designed to really just kind of pump blood into the area, you know? So we're going to start with self-myofascial release techniques like we normally would. You know, we're going to do that foam rolling, we're going to do lacrosse balls, whatever it happens to be. 1 to 3 sets, 1 rep, 30 seconds. Nothing has changed there. But instead of following that up with static or active stretching, we're probably going to do some, maybe a dynamic circuit, which is also really great because, like, if you do this as a circuit, it's a really good way to kind of get the blood flowing like crazy. Now, I will say this, something that NASM did that drives me crazy is they took away 2 sets. It used to be 2 sets, 1 to 2 for your dynamic stretches. I still believe getting a second round is so much better. But you'll see the numbers you guys need to know. 1 set, 10 to 15 repetitions for those body weight exercises, moderate tempo. You're not being explosive, but you're also not going super slow. You can take some rest in between them if you want to, but again, if you want to get the cardio going, I do think it works better as a circuit. And you're going to pick anywhere between like 3 and 10 exercises. Now, this is where
You could, sorry, question.
yeah, go ahead.
You could go up to 10 exercises? I mean, isn't that kind of wasteful, like in terms of time?
It kind of depends. I mean, honestly, you're moving 1 set of these things and like you're moving pretty quick. Like, how long would it take you to do this circuit? You know, let's say let's just build a quick little dynamic stretch circuit here, you know. Um, so let's say I start my client, we'll start them on the ground here, right? We'll do a little bit of cat cow without any pausing, you know. So we'll move it a little bit like dynamically. So we'll start cat cow, then you get up onto your feet. We started kind of upper body in that case, right? A little bit of T-spine action there. So maybe I'll go into something like arm circles. And then maybe something in there to like, I bring him to the wall, have him do a set of like scarecrows, you know, or wall angels, I should say. Sorry, wall angels into scarecrows. Scarecrows is this one. So just like right here, down, back up. Just trying to get that external rotation into maybe like a spinal twist. Into, let's say, we're going into the lower body a little bit, maybe something that is a little bit more, tough, maybe like an inchworm, you know, right? Inchworms, that's the one where you bring your hands to the floor, you walk yourself out to a push-up position, then you walk your feet in back to standing. That's a pretty tough one, actually. Into, let's say, like walking lunges with a twist, just to like really get, you know, some more full body motion in there. Let's see, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3 more. Let's say from there we go into something like butt kickers. And then from there, we do want to get into the calves a little bit. So maybe like a heel walk. And then lastly, just like something that I really like as a full body, we can do that world's greatest stretch as like a standing variation. So like world's greatest. So they stand, they drop their leg back into a reverse lunge. That takes them down, hands on the floor, reach up, reach the elbow down, stand and switch. And it's like you look at this and it's like, whew, that is actually a pretty freaking tough circuit. But they're only doing one of them at a time, right? So you imagine like if I go, 1, 2, I'm doing my little cat cow here so you guys can see me on camera, up to 10 of those arm circles. Maybe I'll do 10 each on that, go forward and backwards. Wall angels, scarecrows, spinal twists. Inchworm's going to take a little bit of time, right? It's kind of a slow exercise, tougher one. Walking lunge to the twist. Butt kicker's a really quick one. Heel walk's a pretty quick one. World's greatest, that's a little bit slower, This will probably take, I want to say 5 minutes to get through the whole thing. Maybe
But
not.
your reps are like 10 to 15, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
So
each.
so we're thinking 10 to 15, let's say 15 reps each, that is a lot for sure. But it's also like, this is the advanced client. This is their warm up. That's it, right? It's all body weight stuff. It was all simple. It's something they can do pretty quickly. It's not going to eat up. It's not going to be a ton of it's not going to waste a ton of your time on your workout.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys actually want to know my favorite dynamic circuit, here is one that I actually use with my clients. So I actually really like heel walk. I actually go, that was upper body to lower body, which is like the way NASM does a lot of things. I like to go lower body to upper body. But heel walks into butt kickers. You guys have done this with me before. Into what I call hen pecks or scoops. Scoops is that one where you take your leg forward and you actually hinge at the waist like this. Let's see here. Walking, scoops, leg strength. This is a really hard one to yeah, there we go. People call them scoops. I call them hen pecks because it looks like when you get a lot of people doing this all at once, it looks like a lot of chickens picking up scratch off the ground. That's my mom. That's totally my mom coming out there. My mom is chicken obsessed. But I'll do low I like the walking variation. And then rather than just doing the full-blown scoop, I usually just have you reach right to left to right to left. So I call them hen pecks. Yeah, no. I don't know. I've heard that other people call it that before. But so now it's that was hamstrings. We got calves, quads, hamstrings. I really like alternating side lunges. So there's a little bit of walking. You lunge out, step, turn, and then you do the other side. Or I'll have my client go all the way down and then all the way back the other way, depending on what the spacing of my gym is. So walking lateral lunges, one of my favorites in there. That could be switched out for something a little easier if a client needs to, like a leg swing, like a lateral leg swing. That could be a really good switch. I then like to get my clients, I really love thoracic rotations. So just quadruped thoracic rotations. So that's where you're on all fours, hand goes behind the head, and you're going to reach back like this. That's a really good one. And then from there, I really like just flipping them over. And instead of doing wall angels, I'll have them do floor angels. So they flip over, and then they get into those wall angels, but they're already on the floor. This right here, and then I like 2 sets. So 2 sets of 15 of this. That's one of my favorite, just quick, easy circuits that I take a lot of my clients through. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 exercises. I usually have them do 15 reps each. And that way they're on the floor, and immediately I just flip them over and move them into their ab work. So they're already there, which is nice. Unless they need a water break. which ruins the whole purpose of taking them to the floor. But usually they're like right there, you know, and it's like we can go right into our abdominal work. And like I said, I'll do 2 sets of 15 on this. And it's not too exhausting. It's a quick dynamic, you know, top to bottom stretch routine. How do you feel about that, guys? Dynamic stretching circuits make sense here?
Good. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. This is a good question because, like, honestly, like we talked about this a couple weeks back, and then we moved past it. But we want the repetition here. So yeah, so then we want to start moving our spine in the core stuff. With activation, we want explosive movements through a full range of movement, right? So we want really explosive core exercises here. So we're looking at, instead of, let's say like if my client was in the stabilization level, they're a beginner client, they might have done something like this, a plank, which is oh God. Skip to the end. Not focused on moving the spine. And then maybe it was stability ball crunches, where now, yeah, they're totally moving their spine through this full range of movement. And then eventually it becomes like a medicine ball pullover throw, where we're getting really explosive. Oh, I skipped past it. Really explosive, crunching like you would normally crunch, but being explosive. Now, I will say this, I actually hate this demo. I pulled up this picture before. I hate this demo. One, he's not doing a great job of crunching. He's using his lats a lot. So it's like, there's a little bit of crunch there for sure, but it's like, he's kind of doing a lot more arm work than anything. I also don't see how he's going very slow. He like caught the ball. He's sitting there. He's going kind of slow. And then he's doing his next rep. If we're trying to be explosive, we want that stretch shortening cycle. You know what I mean? We want to be able to be explosive in the eccentric and in the concentric. So we want to go explosive in both directions. So I would say this is a little bit better. He's not getting the range of motion that we're going for there. This version of this is how to do it by yourself. It's not my favorite, but I still like that better. I like that one better than the other demo, but our best version would probably be something more like this. See how he's getting the ball and he's not stopping. He's going right into his next rep. Stretch, shorten, stretch, shorten. Okay, well, that was the end of his reps. Stretch, shorten, stretch, shorten. That's much better. But it also, I get it. I get where those other 2 videos are coming from. They're, you're coming into a place where you have to have a brick wall. You have to have a hard medicine ball that is going to bounce. And you have to kind of develop the skill to freaking throw it effectively, which is going to take some practice, actually, So that's another thing we kind of look at. Talking about like power training, guys. The one thing that you do also got to consider is like, what skills does your client have? Are they good at throwing things with decent aim? Because if not, some exercises might not be your best choices. They may be the best exercises for targeting the area, but you are going to have to train your client how to do that, Luckily, you probably will have, again, if you've worked your way through strength and stabilization, you'll be in a pretty good spot to do so. But that is one thing to consider. You have to have the space in the gym for it. So power, like I said, these are rare workouts you don't get to quite do as often with your clients unless you are working specifically in like an athlete training facility. Then we got balance power exercises. So balance power is where we are being very explosive, into our balance, right? So balance power might be like a single leg jump to stabilization. Now it has the word stabilization in it. Doesn't mean it's a stabilization exercise. It means that like this is where we are literally jumping explosively, right? So you look here, he's going to jump and then land, and he's going to hold that landing. So he jumped, therefore power, but he's balancing on one leg, so therefore balance. So this is a balance power exercise. So he holds and he comes back. And he jumps and holds and he resets and comes back. So you could do a single leg box jump. Here's just a single leg jump. Actually, this is just a single leg jump. The last one was like a hop. You know, he's kind of traveling forward a little bit. This is a really good one though. Just staying in one place. Nothing wrong with that. I would like him to hold his landing a little bit longer. We like it a good 3-second hold at least. 3 to 5 is kind of the magic number. Here's a single leg jump over to stabilization. So he jumps and lands on one leg. Needs to catch himself a little bit. A lot of forward momentum there. There's that Joel Seedman guy I was showing earlier. We watched this video just a couple days ago, and he holds, he stabilizes, right? So in our movement prep, we're still doing core and we're still doing balance, but we are doing them in a particularly explosive way. So 6 to 10 reps on each leg. If it's the explosive stuff, that's 12 to 20 reps there. For our core, 8 to 12 reps there. Then skill development, our plyometrics get extremely explosive. Our jumps that have even more amplitude, or they might have like further dynamic motions. One of my favorite examples of like a plyometric power, because think about it, plyometric means explosive, power means explosive. So it's like power plus power. It's very explosive. One of my favorites is bounding. Bounding is such a great exercise here. It looks a little goofy because it looks like he's running with like this big exaggerated form, but basically he is jumping from leg to leg to leg. The faster he transitions on his left, the faster he can jump with his right, the faster he can jump with his left. You know, it's very, very, very explosive there. Single leg bounds, same thing. That becomes a little, I don't know about balancy because he's not necessarily like stabilizing. But you can see he's also got the bands on. But just jumping on one leg. The faster he does one, the faster he can do the next one. That's really advanced, by the way. That's reserved for the super advanced client. But even like high knees as an exercise makes a pretty good plyometric power exercise. She's doing kind of an A skip variation. You want to kind of keep your knees more tucked. If you do that leg kick, that's reserved for like A skips. So not like this. You know, she's not doing this like big lean back, right? But the faster she does her left, the faster she can do her right. So it's weird because like power is like the top of the OPT model, but some of these exercises I would argue are actually easier just in terms of like how to perform them. I find them less taxing or easier than some of our strength variations. Like a medicine ball pullover throw is really explosive. But like you look at like a single leg like jump to balance, I actually find that easier than like moving through a full range of movement and balancing on one leg. I find some of these jumping ones actually to be a little easier. So it's, again, it's not always about like what is easy and what is hard. It's about like what are you training for specifically and what builds on your foundation from before. Like to your point a minute ago, Lisa, from like 20 minutes ago, I would say 10 squat jumps is easier than 5 heavy barbell squats. But it is more explosive and powerful. So I want to make sure that I have the good strength foundation first before I ever get into like big explosive jumping stuff. So even it's not about easy and hard, guys. It's about progression and progressing in particular ways. And then for SAQ, these are exercises that are performed with precise technique, which I don't love that definition. It's maximal horizontal inertia and maximal unpredictability. That means that like we can do directional change and they can be unpredictable. So generally, speed, agility, quickness drills that would be used in the power level are things where an athlete might have to catch something. So like a reaction ball. You know, again, I actually find this in some ways to be easier aerobically and stuff. But you take a look right here. She didn't know which one of these is going to throw. And then he is going to toss it to the other side. And she has to figure out, like, if it was his left, she's going to run to the left. If it was his right hand, she's going to run to the right. And then she has to like run fast enough to like track and catch that ball. That is you can see she's working on speed. She's running very fast. It's agility because it's got directional change, but it's also quickness because she has to be able to track that and catch it with her eye. Or a reaction ball like this, which is very like knobby and can bounce in very random directions. What is going on with this guy's camera? That's a different variation. So it requires like coordination. So let's review all that. Is that going to come up? That one. There it is. All right. Last video of the day here. Let's resume this and do what we've been doing every day. Let's go ahead and build us an example power routine 3-day split here. So, save this. Add phase 5 power 3-day split. Workout A. Save it again as workout B. And save it again as workout C. Ugh. Still all gunky. There we go. Okay. Get all of these open and go side by side. That's not side by side. And put you over here. All right. Cool. That looks like it fits. All right. So we're going to build another 3-day split here. And we're going to kind of take a little bit from what we've done in the past. And we're going to kind of put that together here. Now, I will say one thing. You'll notice we didn't do as much arm work on like our phase 4 stuff because, doing like heavy arms in particular, again, kind of doesn't make a ton of sense every single time. But we look here, we're actually going to kind of evolve our workouts from last time. So I'm going to go ahead and just like copy some of this and move it right over to my first workout. So oh no. Except I didn't copy it correctly. So here's our workout from yesterday. That was max strength, right? We had a heavy barbell squat, a heavy bench press, and a heavy bent over row. So if I took that heavy barbell squat and I threw it in here, and then I take that heavy bench press and throw it here. Now, this is very much a workout that is focused on anaerobic power. So this is not so much for the cardios, right? There might be a little bit of cardio in there, but this is very much about like, further improving those particular key 3 movements. Now, we're going to copy them and do them almost exactly the same as we did before. Again, we look at yesterday's workout, and it was 4 sets of 5 repetitions. So if I want to copy that and do 4 sets of 5 repetitions again, that's still addressing the heavy force production from before. But I want to pair these with high velocity movements as supersets. So my barbell squat is probably going to pair with probably just a squat jump at first. Like I said, then I would maybe move into a tuck jump, which my client's getting better at that, and then maybe even a box jump after that. My bench press can pair with a medicine ball chest pass. something very explosive here. And then my bent over row can pair with something explosive like something where I'm going to explode explosively here. That could be like a TRX row where I can be very explosive here. It could be a resistance band explosive row where I'm letting that band snap me back really explosively. Or it could be with something like a Pendlay row where I pull that bar up and I push it back down onto the ground. Today we'll go with like a resistance band explosive. I'm going to put the word explosive in there just to make it clear. But obviously those would be supersetted together, so that's also 4 sets. I'm going to do heavy for my strength movements, so that's 5 reps on those. And I'm going to do explosive for my power movements, so anywhere between 8 to 10 reps there. The tempo is explosive for both. And then my rest, because this is a superset, we're going to say 0 seconds there. And if we look, we can pick anywhere between 1 and 2 minutes if we're doing supersets. If I had done this as, let's just say, like I picked a nothing but like, explosive movements as like a circuit, because I'm working on aerobic power. So like if it was like squat jumps into medicine ball chest bath into like burpees into like ice skaters, that's a really anaerobic, that's like an insanity workout, where it's like nothing but plyometrics in a row, P90X, insanity, all those things, where it's just like big calorie burn. Then I would take 3 to 5 minutes of rest at the end of that circuit to really just like give my body time to replenish all that ATP and get back in. But in this version, we're going to do 2 minutes of rest at the end of each of these. So that is very similar to what we already did. That is just like our power workout from yesterday. I mean, I literally used that as a template to build my workout for today. But we do need to have our warm up. So we're going to go up here. Let's say we're doing a little bit of SMR. Now, these are going to be total body workouts. So I'm going to get all around the body here. So I'll probably do lats. And then I will do, let's say, like hip flexors. We'll say calves. No. And then we'll say 1 set, 30 seconds each. Cool. Now over here, I need to do a circuit of 3 to 10 exercises. So I'm going to throw in my little favorite one that I told you about. We're going to go heel walks, butt kickers, walking lateral hen pecks, walking lateral lunge, quadruped, thoracic rotations, and floor angles. I'm going to follow the NASM rules here, and I'm going to do 1 set. And I'm going to have them do 10 reps each, except for on the single-sided ones, which is just this one, which will be 10 reps. So there's my little circuit, So yeah, that's my little warm-up, dynamic warm-up. Now I need to get a little bit of core and balance in there. So a medicine ball pullover throw is going to be a really good one. And then I will probably pair that with a balance exercise that's going to be a little bit explosive, a single leg hop to stabilization. We'll say lateral. All that means is that they're just going to jump laterally and hold that balance. So getting our numbers here. Now this is where it's somewhat, you see here, it's 1 to 3 sets of 8 to 12, right? So I'm just going to sync that up. We're going to do 3 sets of each of those. 30 sets. 3 sets of each of those. Do 12 reps here. And I'm just going to go 6 each on this. And that way they don't have to do a ton of jumping work that's going to exhaust me pre-workout. Tempo is going to be explosive. Tempo over here, I'm going to write 3 to 5 second hold on landing. Because I want to make sure that my client controls that landing. And I'll do this as a superset. 60 seconds of rest there. So here's our phase 5 workout A. Now that I've got my template, I can kind of follow that template on these other 2 days here, right? So if I want, I can keep this same warm-up. Probably wouldn't, honestly, guys. I would probably give my client a different warm-up every time just because I don't want people getting bored. But nothing wrong with, doing that. If that becomes, here's the thing, like a lot of times I have like this circuit, I teach my clients and I ask them like, you can do that whenever you want. That is a good little circuit for you to get your blood pumping, But if it's me, I'll probably do maybe something a little bit different for workout A, B, and C if I feel like my client needs that variety. Now, last time they did a medicine ball pull over throw. This time I might do like a medicine ball rotation chest pass, which is where they're actually going to rotate like this. So it's an explosive oblique exercise. The other day, I also like a medicine ball scoop toss, which is also an oblique exercise where they got the ball here, twist, throw, twist, throw, twist, throw. So very explosive for, obliques and low back on that one. So that's kind of like an explosive wood chop in a lot of ways. This is also kind of like an explosive wood chop, but they're both going in different directions, right? That's almost like chopping high to low, which is very ab oriented, or chopping low to high, which is very low back oriented. So I've gotten both sides of that angle by throwing these into the routine. Last time they did a single leg hop to stabilization. This time I might have them do a box jump down to stabilization. So they might be on top of like just a small riser, jump forward, hold that landing. And then I could have them do a box jump up to stabilization. So again, small riser, they jump onto it and hold their landing. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy those sets and reps because, again, I've got my template. That's the nice thing you want to consider when you're writing work routines. You want to make sure that you're keeping it easy for yourself to write a template. The only thing I had to change here is because these 2 ab exercises are single-sided, I did have to put an each in there to make it clear that my client's doing both sides. Now, I also can copy my template from here. But again, I want to imagine this is the same. Oops. Oh, no. Put the editor's tag in there. How do I take that off? Ah, God. You know what? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna delete this. There we go. So I've got my kind of template here. I want to follow that, but I also want to continue piggybacking on what we've already done from max strength. So I go down here. We've got that barbell hip thrust that we were doing really heavy yesterday. Unbelievable. Why are you doing that? Copy pasting like that today? Oh, Lord. Come here. I gotta keep you open, apparently. Sorry, my windows are going crazy right now. So last time we had the explosive barbell hip thrust, the incline bench press, and the reverse grip bent over row. So the reverse grip bent over row is more shoulder extension. So that'll pair really well with like a medicine ball slam. So medicine ball slam, medicine ball here, slamming as explosively as possible, which you will notice is just like my reverse grip bent over row. So the same movement there. You will need a sand medicine ball to do that, by the way. That is a really explosive movement, and you want to make sure you do not have a ball that will bounce because you're literally slamming like this, which means it will hit you in the face. So that is exclusively for that. Barbell hip thrust is very much a hip thrusting action. So I can do a kettlebell swing. Would be a really good one, right? Kettlebell swing. If I've got a kettlebell up here, I bring it down between my legs and I thrust. Alternatively, another really good pair for a barbell thrust, guys, is just a forward explosive leap. So literally just doing an explosive like forward jump. You can see she's chest down and she's doing a big hip thrust in order to come out of that, right? What? No, that's totally not what I Googled. So like a long jump. In fact, actually, we're going to do that. We're going to use a long jump instead. Or forward leap, whatever you want to call it. For the incline bench press, we've already done the medicine ball chest pass. This is one that I like. Clap push-ups is a really good pair. So plyometric push-ups. You can do that on a bench if you have to, or a Smith machine if you are having trouble like doing that all the way on the floor. So I'll oftentimes have to modify like that with my clients because clap push-ups are pretty tough. You're supposed to be 8 to 10. And explosive on our tempos. 0 seconds of rest for the first exercise, 2 minutes of rest after our second exercise. And this is workout B. So finally, we'll go into our last example. Again, we're going to kind of copy what we've done from max strength. So going into a deadlift, a military press, and an assisted pull-up. So very explosive variations of just making those things. I'll say like pull-ups, they don't get very explosive. That is where, again, like a resistance band is actually going to come in really handy. Okay. So our deadlift, we'll pair that with a kettlebell swing. Our military press, we'll pair that with like something like a push press. Right. So push press, very explosive for the dumbbells. An assisted pull-up, that is also one where I'd probably use an resistance band pull down, explosive pull down. So you're going to probably be in the gym, hook a resistance band over the top of like a cable machine or like a lat pull down machine. And then you're going to take yourself down onto your knees. Resistance band is there, and you're going to pull very explosively. Which is where like maybe instead of an assisted pull up, I'd maybe change that to like a lat pull down. Then you're already like right there on the machine, which is really nice. And again, we're going to follow all of the same sets and reps. So now we've taken our same client from last month who did all that heavy stuff, and we're doing all that heavy stuff again, but we're adding a superset stimulus here. Now on our cool down, we're going to keep our foam rolling, but again, we want static stretches here at the end. So we'll say like a static ball lat stretch. Let's maybe do like a static 90-90 hamstring. And, well, that doesn't make any sense, I guess. So, copying all that. And there is our cooldown. So yeah, this is going to be our workout C. So I kind of did the lazy approach here. Not really, but I used our workouts from yesterday, right? Or if it was my client, I would use my workouts from last month to basically build the same thing where they get to keep working on like their maximal strength, but now I am adding in all that velocity work as a superset. Also, they were taking 3 minutes of rest yesterday, I think. If I'm not mistaken. No, they were doing 2 minutes of rest. But now, we're still increasing that aerobic engine. So, yeah, Lisa, if I had a client who, let's say I tried to do the superset, they can't do that. Couple ways I can regress that. I could give them rest between the superset. So maybe they take 1 minute of rest, then they do like the explosive movement, then they take their 2 minutes of rest. That'd be one regression. I can move them back in the OPT until if I feel like they're not ready. Or I could do those 3 strength movements first, rest it up, and then do those 3 power movements as like a finisher circuit at the end of their workout. So maybe they end up doing a circuit where they do all 3. And now I'm building an engine because 3 explosive movements in a row, you're going to get a little out of breath.
What would be the rest period if you did it that way, like strength, 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 and then explosive, explosive,
Okay. So you want to take 3 to 5 minutes between circuits. So it'd be 3 minutes at the end of the
Okay.
circuit.
So but you said that you would give them a rest. You would do strength, 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 right? First?
Yeah. So if I did that version, I'd do the regular 2 minutes.
Okay, between each set.
So I would
Okay.
take all my max strength acute variables, leave them alone. They're totally like they were in phase 4.
Okay.
And then 3 power movements at the end as a circuit. I would give them just 1 extra minute of rest in between that circuit, just because it's like a big power output equals big, a necessity for big rest.
Got it.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
But this is probably the more vanilla version.
Mhm.
All right, guys, that is it. We have made friggin' a ton of workouts in the last few days. I need to attach these. Discard comment. Didn't mean to make a comment. Let me put these in the chat for you guys to download. Anybody have any questions about this power stuff? On Monday, we'll review this and make it slightly different power workout. We'll probably do an aerobic power workout.
Hey, Ken, is Brad rather not Ken? Isn't Monday a holiday?
Oh, did you guys get a text from Sochi?
No, but isn't it Indigenous Day?
It is Indigenous Peoples Day. I don't think we've taken that one off in the past.
It's a federal holiday.
That's what Lindsay said the same thing. I texted Jessica yesterday about it, but I didn't hear back. Are we?
Look, we got off for Juneteenth, so we better have Monday off. That's all I'm gonna say.
I've actually proceeded as if it was off, but I
Uh,
could be wrong.
Like, if we're gonna truly be equal, we all deserve the day off. So
I hear you. You're not like, listen, don't push that button because I'm totally with you on there. Is Monday holiday?
I actually did that at one of my last schools. They were like they sent out like the schedule for the year, like what days we were gonna have off and stuff. And literally for the semester, they were like, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Yes, we understand it's a federal holiday, but you will be in school. And then they were like, but in February you'll get President's Day off. I was like, yeah, nah, we're not doing this. I said, yeah, here's what's gonna happen. I'm not showing up on Junior Day. I said that's not a thing. I said President's Day isn't even a real holiday, and y'all are telling me that we're gonna be out of school for that. I was like, yeah, nah. I made a whole fuss about it. We ended up being off for Martin Luther King.
That's funny. It's a good question. Jessica's usually pretty quick about texting back, so let me just give a second, and I'll bet she'll.
But normally we would have got a text. I didn't think about that.
That's the thing. Normally you do get it. You know, it's funny. I never get those texts. I usually like
I've never gotten a text.
from Sochi.
I've never gotten a text or an email about days off.
Really?
Really?
Never.
Did you have to change your number like when you like I have your number, but is that the number that's in Sochi's system? Have you ever
Yeah.
gotten like Amy or Marla?
Yeah, I've never gotten a text from either of them. The only time I ever heard from Amy was when I was enrolling and she just made sure that I was good to go. The paperwork.
Interesting.
Yeah, after that, I never
Oh
heard
yeah,
from
they're
her.
good about sending those texts.
Yeah. Hey, make sure
Did
that
you
I
sign this yet? Did you
yeah,
sign?
yeah. Once they had their hook, line, and sinker.
Like,
DocuSign,
hey, make
DocuSign,
sure you
DocuSign.
finish all your paperwork and do everything for us, but when you need us, we will not respond to you.
Yeah, I haven't heard from them since, so I've never gotten a text or email.
Hey, who wants to put bets down when Jessica will say, I was just about to send that text?
Oh my gosh. All right, hold on a second. Pause.